One of the boldest telltale signs of your marketing working is also one of the primary determinants of whether you get referrals. And this is why, whether I'm launching your show, providing strategy for your brand, or providing recommendations to ongoing production clients, I revisit this time and time again. Your niche. What specific group of people you serve and why. You could probably roll your eyes with me because we've all heard it. The riches are in the niches. But seriously, it doesn't help you if 4 million people see your content. It only matters if the right people see your content. Your niche must be clearly defined for your brand in order for any marketing to work. And the beauty? It can always be refined or narrowed further. Lucky for you, today's guest is a shining example of an independent financial advisor who's nailed his niche. Today, you get to meet James Miller, founder of Baobab Wealth and host of two shows, Abroad in America and Divorce the IRS. Jimmy built his firm around a very specific niche, expats and globally mobile families, based on his own lived experience growing up overseas and navigating cross border financial challenges firsthand. He shares how to choose a marketing partner and some red flags to watch out for, what he's learned from launching multiple podcasts with different strategic goals, and how his content and call to action have evolved from direct to more relationship driven over time. If you've been thinking about what makes you stand out and how you might lean into that more clearly, this episode will help. You're listening to Podcasting for Financial Professionals, the show where smart business owners learn how to use podcasting as a serious growth tool, not just another marketing experiment. I'm Virginia Elder, podcast strategist and founder of Podcast Abundance. Since 2019, I've helped professionals stop guessing with their podcast and instead build a show that increases their authority, expands reach, and generates leads for their business. If you've ever wondered whether your podcast is actually generating leads or if you're just kind of publishing episodes and hoping for the best, you're not alone. And the issue usually isn't the content. It's that no one ever showed you what to track. Your podcast builds authority, warms leads, expands your reach, and creates opportunities long before someone ever hires you. But if you're only watching download numbers, you're missing most of the ROI. That's why I created the Podcast ROI Metrics Tracker, a free tool that helps you track 50 plus non-traditional metrics so you can finally see what your podcast is really doing for your business. Grab it now at podcastabundance.com/ROI-tracker. All right, let's get into the episode. Jimmy, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Excited to be here.
So let's start out by sharing with folks a little bit about your business and how you got here.
Yeah, I run a small RIA called Baobab Wealth and Baobab Wealth Abroad. I've been an advisor since 2000. I really specialize in a couple groups of people, primarily expats, Americans wanting to live, retire, work overseas, as well as cross-border families, people that are married to somebody from another nationality. I'm married to a beautiful German woman. And of course, there's lots of financial planning issues when you have to span different borders. So that's what I do. The way my practice sits now, I have about 100 households. I manage 75 million in assets under management.
Beautiful. Okay, I love how you were able to give us specifics about the size of your business. But then what I love even more is that you talked about your niches that you play in. That is one of the most important things that I'm always looking for in a brand. Okay, financial planning, right? That is a big, broad world, and you need a very specific way to stand out and differentiate yourself from whoever down the street, because many of us know many financial professionals. So, okay, how did you arrive? It makes sense to me about, I'm sure that when you met your wife, you were kind of noticing like there's these specific financial differences that families need to plan for when you've got folks from different nationalities, from different countries. But then the other piece of it, tell me kind of how you arrived at that niche.
So I've spent over half my life overseas as an expat. My parents traveled around the world. They're both Americans. I'm an American, but they traveled around the world setting up sewing factories that made clothing. So I was born in Africa, in Zambia, and that's why I call my company Baobab Wealth. Baobab is the tree of life, like from the Lion King. It's represents Africa, and I often tell people that investing is like planting a tree. If you leave it alone through the seasons, it'll grow to something beautiful. That's why I use it as the logo for my company. But after Africa, we lived in the Philippines and then Haiti for a few years, and then Hong Kong for 5 years, Australia. So I grew up as an expat and I spent most of my adult life overseas as well. And so I've lived that lifestyle. And as Michael Kitces would say, the riches are in the niches. And when you've lived a lifestyle, you're in a unique position to help other people that are in that lifestyle or trying to get into that lifestyle. And so I just thought it would be a really good niche for my company. There's not a lot of financial advisors out there that really have lived that lifestyle and specialize in it. There are a handful of companies that do, for sure. I'm one of them. And I just really enjoy working. I mean, that's my tribe, my people, expats. And so I enjoy working with those types of clients. And so that's why I really specialized into that niche.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. And your book is called Divorce the IRS. So so tell me how that plays into the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm still a US based financial advisor at heart, and I have a lot of US based clients as well. And a lot of the expats come back after being expat for years to America. So I do a lot of US based financial planning as well. I wrote the book during the first edition during the COVID lockdown. I thought it was a really good use of all the inside time we had. And I'm a big follower of Michael Kitces in our industry, like many of you probably know him, and he's always talking about writing a book as a piece of marketing. And if you kind of take a look at all the content you've created over the years, it's often a lot easier than financial advisors believe to kind of put that all together into a book. And so I did exactly that during the lockdown. I looked at all the things I'd been talking about over the years and decided to put it all together in a book called Divorce the IRS, which, if you sum it up, is really a book about how important Roth conversions are, and that tax-free investing is not utilized as much as I think it should be, thinking farther ahead and doing a lifetime tax plan instead of just trying to maximize how much taxes you get back in any one year, considering how much taxes you'll pay over the course of your lifetime, considering things like the widow's penalty, paying taxes from the grave, paying more for Medicare through IRMA, making your Social Security taxable through too high a provisional income. So the book is really about thinking about those future things before you retire and how to set yourself up with Roth and Roth conversions to eliminate some of those tax time bombs, as I call them, down the road.
I think, of course, writing a book is such a great way to put your specialty, yeah, on paper and have that widely available. I'm a frequenter of the library and half price books. And, occasionally, if I get really desperate, I'll buy a brand new book. And I'm such a dork that I have so many books with IRA in the title. So I appreciate your contribution to that space, just as a consumer. And it looks like you launched a podcast with that same title. So I'm assuming there was some strategy there as far as marketing the book, marketing your business. In which order did this happen, and what was the thought process behind it?
So the first edition of the book came out back in 2021. Last year, I released a second edition of the book with updated tax numbers, and the book actually did so well, and I got so many responses that the new edition I also included many chapters. A lot of people that are into fire reached out, so I wrote a chapter about that. Real estate investors reached out, so I wrote a chapter on that. So the second edition is quite expanded. I considered doing an audiobook with it. And the podcast, actually, the idea for the podcast, I have two podcasts, but the podcast for the book, Divorce the IRS, that idea came from really an audiobook type idea. Instead of just doing an audiobook and reading it, I did a couple different things. I actually created a video series for the book that goes chapter by chapter on the book's website. Let's be honest, not everybody wants to sit down and read a 250-page book about taxes.
What?
It's like the broccoli of financial planning. It's like it's not the most exciting thing. I get that. So I created a video series as well, which we could talk about if you want, and then the podcast is ongoing thing. But the podcast is really the beginning ones is kind of the book and audio book format, but adapted to podcast. So I took the book and I'm kind of reading parts of it, but I'm also talking about it in more depth in the podcast so that people can listen to the book as well as watch a video series on the book or read the book.
Okay, so I love how you quickly identified, yeah, I'm home, it's COVID, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to make best use of this time. I'm sure you had some mentors and guidance through that. But then at the same time, you recognized, I've got to get the word out about this. Like, you can't just secretly, quietly publish a book and never tell anybody and expect it to be purchased and expect that to garner some traction for your business. But then what I am hearing as well is sure, you could, release an audiobook version, which is a great idea. Lots of people are audiobook consumers, but recognizing that, you know what, I could take this even further, right? I can talk about each chapter as a concept or three concepts and invite a guest or not. There's so much that you could do as like almost a spin-off of the book. And I think you took a really took advantage of it in like a really smart way. Do talk with us about the video series that you mentioned.
Yeah, so I also have a YouTube channel. I've been doing videos for years. I think video is a really strong marketing platform for financial advisors. I tell advisors all the time, especially ones that are nervous about doing a podcast or creating content or making a video, they worry about how they look or they sound or they feel. And I remind them that every client that they have really bought them. Them. They didn't buy the company or the service, they bought them. In most good client advisor relationships, you're selling yourself to and the trusted relationship to the client. And so that they should consider that when they're creating content. And if they have a little quirk that they're nervous about on camera, they don't like the way they look, that they should really work hard to try to get over that because the people will see past that. The people that like them, that like their message, will that want to buy them, they're going to see it when they meet you in your office anyway. It's really great when people come to me and they're like, I've been following you for years and I've watched all your videos. And it's kind of strange because they feel like they really know me and who I am and all my mannerisms and my voice already. And, I'm meeting them for the first time. But it really creates that warm environment and such a stronger bond with them right out of the gate when they say, I love your stuff and I watched all your videos. It just makes it much more relaxed meeting with them, more friendly, more human to human. That's what that type of marketing does for you.
I agree. And I'm curious what you'll say about this. But in my experience, when you meet someone that you feel like you know in this way from their content, we get to skip past the how's the weather, how many kids do you have, where did you graduate college, like all this could be valuable to the conversation, but we get to skip past it and be like, hey, okay, so in your book, you said this. How do I implement that strategy? Am I ready for this? And we can just almost dive straight into why you came to me. And I think I love that piece of it the most. Do you have any examples like that where someone from, has heard you for years, has the book maybe, and is able to just kind of get straight into it with you?
Yeah, well, you can tell right away when you meet with somebody and they start off with, I've seen all your videos, and you can already tell that they've bought into you and your message and what you're saying. It just makes a natural conversation happen a lot easier than a prospecting, salesy type conversation with somebody. Really, for me, it all changed when I wrote the book. I love all my different marketing platforms, podcasts, books, guides, websites, YouTube channel. They all work together. But the book is really what changed it for me. When people had taken the time to read a 250-page book about taxes and a lifetime tax plan and all that stuff, they were really sold. And it really, conversations just changed. People were coming to me instead of me looking for them. And conversations where people were asking me about whether I would take them on as clients, or, I only have, $600,000, for example. Is that enough for you?
Quick pause here because you host a podcast for your business, so this matters. Most podcast hosts judge their success by downloads or whether someone hires them directly from their show. But that's not how podcasting actually works. Your show is building authority, warming leads, improving visibility, and creating opportunities long before a sales conversation happens. The problem is, most business owners don't track any of that. So they get frustrated and assume the podcast isn't working because they haven't gotten a client directly from an episode. I created the podcast ROI Metrics Tracker to fix that. It's a free tool that helps you track 50 plus non-traditional metrics so that you can finally see the real return your podcasting is doing for your business. You can grab it right now at podcastabundance.com/ROI-tracker. All right, back to the episode.
Before the book, I rarely had people starting off in the first 3 minutes of a prospecting meeting asking me if I would take them. And after the book and all the marketing things I've done after the book, that's really where the shift came. And it was an amazing transformation where people were really seeking me out and asking me if I would take them instead of me asking the other way around.
Yeah, it's truly that attraction marketing piece where they are seeking you and hoping and praying that they get to work with you instead of you like, "Ugh," like how are we going to attract people this week, right? Like I need some clients. Such a different feeling there. Now, you mentioned, okay, you have two shows, you've got the book out. Of course, there's YouTube channels. Will you share a little bit about how you're doing that, how you're producing two shows? That's what's going on in the back of people's minds if they aren't producing content yet, or if they've just started, they're thinking like, how do you have time for this? What do you do? How do you do this?
Yeah, it's a good question. It can take a considerable amount of time. So I work with a marketing agency. I know, Virginia, you run a marketing agency that helps advisors with this. That's the best path forward so that the advisor can shine where they shine. I used to go to a studio and record. I would write scripts for short videos ahead of time. In this space, content is quite easy to come by, right? There's lots of different ideas. There's lots of different topics to talk about. Each advisor, if they don't have a niche, they have things that they certainly like in the industry that they can talk about. And then I invested in also creating a studio here at home. So I bought all the lights and the teleprompter and all that kind of stuff. And it is a little nerve-wracking in the beginning when you start doing all that stuff, and it does take some time, but it's gotten a lot easier. And all the things that you need to do it have come down in price. And once you figure out, kind of get it set up and have somebody help you the first couple times, it's not that complicated, and it becomes easy. The more you do it, the better you get. When I go back and look at my first videos, you could clearly see I'm reading a teleprompter, right? I'm nervous. It takes practice like anything else. But I've never taken down any of those old videos, and it really shows I think I like to look at it from my progression. I think clients like to see those old videos. They could tell I look much younger and that you're nervous, and clients like that. It makes it real. But you just have to break into it. Other tools today, Chat GPT helps me with a lot of my scripts. I give it an idea. It gives me a script like right out of the bat. I take it, I polish it, I make it my own. But coming up with ideas and writing scripts with the tools that we have today has also become quite a bit easier as well.
Speeds up production quite a bit because you're not sitting there for an hour writing your own script. It turns into 30 minutes of editing or less.
Yeah, and the scripts don't have to be perfect. They have to be you. They have to be genuine. I know a lot of advisors don't even like to write scripts. They just get on and they're just themselves. I mean, when you're sitting in front of a client, you don't have a teleprompter on the side of the client, and you're like read. And maybe back in the old days, when I started with a company called Waddell and Reed, doesn't even exist anymore. Back in 1999, they made us memorize the sales scripts, but most advisors don't do that anymore. You're going to be yourself, and you should try to be yourself through your marketing as well.
And we've both kind of touched on, the use of marketing companies, right? In many cases, I'm running into at least where someone has been burned by marketing in the past. Whether it is not delivering the analytics they promised, the feeling that like I've spent X amount of dollars and I don't have a client yet. And some of it, yeah, sure. I mean, marketing for 90 days is not going to get you the traction that, committing to it long term would. But then there's that balance of, what are you producing and where is it being posted? We had a brief conversation about that. So could you share just some insight as far as, and again, this is not going to work for everyone, but what has worked for you as far as where it's being repurposed, the platforms that have worked best for you, and why do you think that is?
It takes time. It takes time. This is a very long, marketing is a very long game, especially in producing videos or podcasts, these types of things. It takes a long time. When I started, I remember when I hired my first marketing agency a long time ago, I was one of those advisors that after 90 days, I'd spent quite a bit of money. I didn't feel like I had any return. And I created a meeting with them and got on Zoom, and I've spent so much money. I don't have any new leads. I don't have new clients. I didn't get it. And there's so many advisors out there that fall into that. They don't get it. I would say to get traction in the expat world took me at least 2 years of producing videos, of looking for places where expats hung out, reaching out, creating guides specific to expats and putting it out there, doing social media, making videos. Part of my book is about expats. It took 2 years, I think, before I actually got my first client where I could say that came from my marketing efforts, not just because I live overseas. I do a lot of speaking presentations as well at embassies, and that's very quantifiable. I meet Bob at the embassy. He listened to me speak. He becomes a client. I know exactly where I got him from. Marketing is a little bit different than that. Nowadays, it's really hard to tell what actually got me a client because most people that are coming to me now have watched my videos, listened to my podcast, read or at least skimmed through my book. They've been all over my website. So, did they come from the book? Did they come from the YouTube channel? It's almost impossible to tell anymore where they came from. Unless again I'm doing a speaking event or it was a direct referral or things like that. But from the marketing channel, it takes a long time. It's a long game. Now, advisors, you're just like me. I get at least an email a day from a marketing agency, and the latest flavors. You don't pay them a penny and they don't see results, and they're gonna have 20 appointments booked with somebody with $1 million or more by the end of this month. I just delete all those. Advisors get sucked into that. There's no marketing that I've ever discovered in 26 years of being a financial advisor that works like that. It just doesn't. It's a long game. It takes a long time. So think about it like that. Start small. Figure out which channel might work best for you. If you just really can't get over the nervousness of making videos and you think you have a face for podcast, then start a podcast if you want to dabble in videos. But understand it's going to take a long time, and you have to provide value to people. So every time I create a piece of content, my whole goal is to create value for the person that's watching it, reading it, listening to it. And when I listen to it and I go back through it, that's the first thing I think of is like, is this giving massive value, as Jarvis would like to say in our industry? It's got to provide value for the people, or they're going to tune out of it really quick. So if you're creating content that's providing value for people and you're putting it out there and you give it enough time, it almost, I think any channel will work for somebody. But I see too many advisors give up on different channels too soon because they didn't give it enough time to get that traction that they need.
Well, and I think There's also something to be said about, committing to a long period of time and getting started with something that you think is decent, right? It's not going to be perfect. You're never going to feel like it's totally perfect, but getting started with, a decent production, a decent camera, whatever, these things are, decent content. And then, looking at it from an analytical standpoint, and not analytics like how many downloads did I get? Like analytics, like you said, is this valuable? Is this answering questions that people are asking me actually in my client meetings? Is this, something that would be attractive to someone who would want to be my client? Would this pull them in and and help them recognize that I am the guy for them, right? The girl for them, whoever, whoever the advisor is listening. So, and then tweaking that content over time. If you produce bad content for 2 years, yeah, you're not going to get traction. I'm sorry. So it has to be tweaked and analyzed and guided, whether you are doing that yourself, whether you're having your team help you, hey, like, what do you guys think? Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I know that you don't produce the same thing that you started out with.
Yeah, well, I've always looked for help with this. So it needs to, right? If you're looking for especially high net worth type of people, you have to put out high net worth type of content. And we're advisors, we're not media production people. It's very important that you hire somebody to create that professional look and feel, the edit to your podcast or your videos. That's absolutely super important. I couldn't stress that enough. Don't attempt to do it on your own. Another trick that I like that I think is really valuable for listeners is I've had a lot of advisors. I tell them start with something like Loom. Loom is a screen core recording thing, and don't start with it to make content. Start with it with your clients. One of the best things I did as an advisor is discover Loom with clients. Again, I'll pull up, for their annual review, especially my smaller clients. I don't want to take a lot of face-to-face time with because they're small clients, been with me a long time. I'll pull up their statement and do their annual review by recording, and you can see a little bubble picture of yourself on the screen. You're there. You can move your mouse around. You can show them your statement. You can show them pictures of your kids playing soccer. You could whatever. You can kind of do the whole annual review and send them this video. It's a really great way for advisors to start to get used to making videos and being on video, where they're on the video but they're not the center of the video, and learn how to be on the camera and talk to clients. And you'll get feedback from using Loom with clients. It's not only makes your practice more efficient, it gets you on camera. You'll see clients coming back and say, "Oh, that was really amazing, and I love seeing you and how you answered all my questions. I don't even need to come to the office because you answered all my questions." And that feedback often gives confidence to advisors who can then take the next step from something like Loom with the clients they already know to trying to produce a YouTube style short video that they could put out there for marketing.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, actually, just to like get used to recording yourself speaking. It's a tiny little bubble on the camera when you use Loom. So like I even do it sometimes with no makeup on because I'm like, they can't see me anyways. Who cares? So guys are probably going to be less worried about that. But it's this like low lift, low pressure way to start creating something and get used to the way you speak and sound and all of that. And then, like you said, it's almost like a safe space because these are people that already trust you, and, they aren't necessarily worried about judging how you look or how professional you seem. They're already in. And so if you can get used to that and kind of mature through that, then okay, maybe we move to like the full screen down the road.
Yeah, and then maybe create some videos with Loom on how to access their account online, how to read their statement, where they can then use that same video over and over again when they get new clients in their onboarding. And those little steps will help an advisor move, I think, along the path to producing better, high quality content in the long run.
Well, and streamline your practice, right? If you're no longer answering kind of the top 10 basics of how to navigate the online platform, good Lord, that frees up so much time. So I really support that as far as like just operations goes, and not even talking about marketing in that way. Tell me about, I know that you launched the podcast, Divorce the IRS, to go with the book. Did you have the America Abroad show before that? Like, which was first, and how has this whole marketing endeavor changed for you over the years?
Yeah, so Abroad America was my first podcast. I started that, I don't even remember, quite a while back to 2020, 2021. My wife is German, and she had a lot of friends that had come to the United States to work, and so I was getting a lot of clients and referrals at the time that were expats in America. And I was like, there's really nobody in that niche at all specializing in that. And there's some very specific financial planning issues for expats in America. Like, they come to work in America for 3 years and they end up putting all their money in their 401k into the pre-tax traditional 401k instead of the Roth 401k. And then they don't realize when they want to take their money home in 3 years when they go back to Europe that they're going to have to pay taxes then and taxes on the growth plus a 10% penalty, early withdrawal
Yes.
penalty.
Oh,
And
painful.
yeah, so I was like, that's a really good niche. And so I started this podcast to go along with some guides that I'd created explaining these pitfalls for expats here in America as a niche. To be honest, it worked so well that I stopped doing it. And I'm sure, Virginia, you've seen it. You've seen advisors, they start something and it works and they stop doing it for some reason. And then so it took a hiatus from that, and then I came back to it here last year and started up again, just because I think it's a valuable niche. I don't really specialize in that anymore. Most expats in America don't meet my minimum, and it's a little bit challenging to work with people who are only here for 3 years and then they leave. But it is something that provides value out there to the community. So I still once or twice a month add to that podcast and put out a show about that, just kind of as a give back to that community.
Awesome. That's what I was going to ask. Like, okay, wait, how does that work? It works so well. You stopped doing that. Is because you ran out of time. But then the rest of your story answered that question for me. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about lead gen or client nurturing, that type of thing, using your podcast and YouTube channel. We can throw the book in that conversation as well, because it is a piece of this layered marketing that you've got going on. How strategic are you being with your content as far as, calls to action and having people download something and collecting email addresses? Generally, that's not something folks can do from the beginning unless they have a strategist helping them think through that. But being that you're a few years in, share with me how that is working for you.
Yeah, it's working really well. I've tried it all, just like a lot of advisors out there. Many years ago, I had everything on my website gated. You had to provide your email address. You could only download the first chapter. Now I mostly give away all my content. I'm in a really great spot. I've really grown. I say no to more people than I say yes to these days. I keep raising my minimums because, like everybody, I only have so much time in the day. But it's taken me a long time to get there. I got to really stress that, and a lot of time, effort, and money to get to that part, this place in my practice. And I'm not a huge practice. I'm just a solo practitioner. I have a full-time assistant. I spend almost all my time traveling around the world. I like my boutique little lifestyle practice. I only probably work about 20 hours a week. My clients have been with me a long time. I love my clients. They love me. But as Nick Murray would say, another icon in our industry, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. And so you always have to be marketing and putting yourself out there, not only to bring in new blood or new clients, new assets under management, but your current clients also expect to see, in my opinion, all that marketing stuff. So I produce a newsletter twice a month that goes out and it gives links to all my latest videos and podcasts and things I'm doing in the community and things like that. And current clients also, they see that and oh, my advisor's being an advisor and he's out there doing advisor things and he's staying up on the trends and he's producing this stuff. And I think that that's good for current clients, even clients that have been with you a long time, to see all of that marketing stuff to reinforce that you're staying up on top of things, you're out there working as an advisor for them and all that stuff. So I don't think marketing is just for bringing in the new assets under management. I think it's also to make your current clients feel confident that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
that you're still, like you said, active, staying up on trends, aware of what's going on in the world, still in business, right? So, um, is there anything specific that are planning as far as in your show? Are you doing a singular call to action for 90 days at a time? Is there a particular lead magnet that you're speaking about intentionally during a certain portion of the year? Anything like that that you've found that is very specific that you're working through?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, how you do a call to action, it can be very different for different advisors. I mean, I have completely transformed from a commission-based A-share mutual fund sales guy in the beginning of my career to a fee-only fiduciary RIA today. And from going and actively asking people, will you do business with me? And then letting that uncomfortable silence, right? Whoever says the next word loses type of deal to now where I don't have to have those strong calls to action or put pressure on anybody anymore. My calls to action are much more subtle, dropping hints about where they can get more free information or where they can go check out a video off something that they just read and then letting the client go and find all that valuable information and then coming to me if they choose to. I love that style of marketing. I know for advisors that are really looking to grow quite quickly and they're not at the level of marketing and been doing it for as long as I have, can't always do that and they have to have stronger calls to action. I used to put together a retirement rescue kit, and people could, sign up on my homepage of my website, and I had landing pages, refinanceyourira.com, and things like that. And I used to put stuff, a mug and a book and some guides and all the stuff in a box with stickers all over it, mail it out, and then follow up on those leads proactively. And that can work. It absolutely worked for me. I don't have time, or I couldn't take on that many clients if I was that proactive anymore. So I don't do those hard gated marketing, mail things out, proactively follow up. I let everything trickle back to me. And I come from a theory of abundance, not scarcity. I give away my information. And I do get a lot of clients that because clients shop around and oftentimes I hear like I came back to you, Jimmy, because you gave me a lot more value than everybody else. Everybody else seemed to want to sell me. And you told me all the information. I was like, you answered my questions. I could have gone and done it myself. And the truth is clients can go do it themselves. I mean, they always can. They can learn but there's a lot of clients out there that don't want to do it themselves. They want to build that trusted relationship. And so I give away all my information. And for people to qualify, I do a financial plan for free up front. I know there's a lot of debate in our industry about whether you should do that or not. But I like to do that so that they don't have to decide in one Zoom call whether they want to do business with me or not. And they can see the financial planning process. They can get to know me. I can get to know them. And then they can make an informed decision about whether they want to work with me or not. Because I only want to work with clients that really want to work with me. They want to outsource the financial management and all that stuff to me. I don't want to work with clients that I've convinced or sold that they have to work with me or that I'm going to, beat the market or do better than the other financial advisors. That's not where I bring value at all. And clients see that in the total marketing package that I put together because my message is consistent through everything that I do. Anybody that follows Nick Murray, right? He says he's been saying the same exact thing to his advisors for 50 years. Same with Michael Kitces. And I do the same thing for my clients. Lifetime tax plan, fiduciary responsibility. It's the same message over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing that worked with a publisher for your book, worked with a marketing platform or various marketing platforms for, the different pieces of content. Could you share with us, what are some things that you look for in a marketing firm? What it maybe something that was a red flag of like why you didn't work with someone? Like help the folks listening find the right firm for them. There's podcast specific folks like me. There's overall marketing firms for advisors. There's a bunch of them. How do you choose and what are you looking for? Help them avoid some mistakes here.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. And I would say a lot of what I just spoke about. You want to find somebody that you feel like you can trust, that's being honest with you. It's not, doesn't feel like they're trying to sell you some package or program or instant results. Somebody that's been doing it for a while, I think is key. Somebody that you can look at what they've done for other people, to look at the professionalism of the content they've created for other people, but somebody that's going to be that you feel is going to be really honest with you. Because if they're not telling you that this is a long haul at some of these marketing channels and that they're going to get you some kind of overnight result, right? If you're an advisor, are you going out and telling clients that you're going to give them, you're going to double their money this year, and be some get rich quick scheme? My guess is anybody listening to this kind of podcast is not that kind of advisor. So don't hire that kind of marketing agency either, right? It's very in line probably with how you run your financial practice. Slow and steady growth over time. You have to give a marketing agency as much time as you're expecting your clients to give you to see the long-term result of investing in financial planning. I think that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, one more like reveal the mistakes question for you, okay? If you were starting over and like went back in time, right? You're gonna launch a podcast or you're gonna launch a YouTube channel. What would you have done differently based on your knowledge at this point?
I would have started sooner and I would have done it in conjunction with other things. Advisors are in different stages of growth in their career, and there's definitely things that produce results quicker. So if I was, if I sold my practice today to somebody else and I still wanted to be in the business and just start from scratch, I would start right away with creating videos, guides, maybe writing another book, all the podcasts, all that stuff. But you're gonna starve if you're starting out and that's what you're relying on. I would mix it in with doing public speaking. I like public speaking. I do speaking about my book, and there's lots of different speaking things that you can do. You don't have to be, go hire white gloves and spend $10,000 to $15,000 to fill a dinner seminar. Today I'm recording this from my home in Florida, and there must be 100 gated communities that all put on a seminar for their residents every single month. And when I'm in Florida, sometimes I do the rounds and do speaking. It's totally free. I just got to reach out to the communities and they're happy to bring me in. I give a copy of my book out to everybody. I do a little educational presentation, and getting in front of people and speaking, that's a great marketing tool. It's a great way to meet people, get people into your practice right away. But it does take some effort, some cost, and so I would do things like that mixed in with the long-term strategy so that over time you can transition and rely on the longer term strategies of providing real value through content, through a podcast, through YouTube, through videos, and all that kind of stuff. Because let's be honest, having everybody come to you through all those channels is much easier than getting up in front of crowds and traveling around and doing all that speaking circuit and things like that. But there's a place for all different types of marketing in our industry.
I like how you said, kind of a little of this and a little of that, not just relying on one thing. Because I think that's a little bit of a misconception is like, let me figure out the one thing that I can commit to that's going to answer all my problems. And I don't think that exists, even for me, even for my business. I don't think that's a viable thing we should be searching for. I think it's layered. I think there are, like you said, some events you can attend, some speaking opportunities, maybe some small group participation type stuff that will garner clients faster. And then there's the long term stuff where you're actually like nurturing people in and helping them grow with you, or maybe even helping them grow to a point where they, have enough assets to be able to work with you. Okay, so before you go, let's make sure we share where they can find you, follow you, listen to you, talk about your different shows, where we can buy the book, all the stuff.
Yeah, so if you want to see the whole marketing package, check out the website, baobabwealth.com, BAOBAB wealth.com. For US based people, baobabwealthabroad.com for Americans living overseas. Divorce the IRS, you can buy it anywhere books are sold, Barnes& and Noble, Amazon. It's all over the place. Divorce the IRS podcast and Abroad America podcast, anywhere you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, anywhere like that. And the YouTube channel under Baobab Wealth as well. So you can see the videos and the professionalism of the videos and all that kind of stuff. I'm quite easy to find on purpose. You got to make yourself easy to find out there, but you want to be easy to find for the right people. I think another key thing to tell people is I think advisors with this type of marketing get too caught up in how many views they have or how many downloads they have. And I talk with my marketing guy all the time. It's not about how many views you get. And I think that's another thing that you might want to look for when you're interviewing or looking at marketing agencies. You know, these ones that, oh, we'll get you a million views. A million views from the wrong people doesn't do me any good whatsoever. And if you get those views to the wrong people, I think also the algorithms and all these things that people like to talk about will start showing your content to the wrong people. I think it's very important to get the right views from the right people. I'd much rather have 200 views on my channel, one of my videos. It's very specific about somebody retiring under a certain visa in Portugal, than put that out with shorts all over the place and get a million people that are somehow dreaming about Portugal 20 years from now because they traveled there once and they're Googling something about traveling for vacation to Portugal. That's getting it in front of the wrong people. And then you teach the algorithms to get your stuff in front of the wrong people. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind when you do this kind of marketing as well.
Solid advice to wrap us up. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Podcasting for Financial Professionals. Before you go, make sure you're actually measuring what your podcast is producing. Not by vibes, not by download spikes, but by the actual outcomes it's creating. Authority, visibility, and leads for your business. Your podcast is doing more than you think. You just need a way to see it. That's why I created the Podcast ROI Metrics Tracker, a free tool that helps you track the real return your podcasting for business is creating, from authority and visibility to leads and opportunities across many categories. Download it right now at podcastabundance.com/ROI-tracker.